we freak out over that. Somehow we think God gave us those things for our sake instead of to steward them and manifest His presence. He didn't give you those intimate relationships just to meet your needs. He gave you those intimate relationships so you can model Christ and love one another. Look, God never gave you the blessing of children, parents, at the cost of who He is. He never gave you the gift to have children to run the risk of something bad happening or life catching up or some demonic thing or your child making a bad mistake and driving out of control and hitting a tree and now you get a phone call you never want to get. And all of a sudden somehow God's the villain and God, why did you let it happen? And God, and all of a sudden it's like God gave us the gift of having children at the expense of who He is. No, God gave us the children in light of who He is. So we constantly minister the truth of who He is in those relationships. And if something unfortunately would happen traumatic, we never crumble and die, tuck tail, turn tail, and run. We go after Him all the more because we can't lose, and one day we'll all rejoice together that we continue to believe. Amen. Or you let your heart get broke, you let your heart get failed, and you ask a million questions about God instead of having the already answer through Jesus Christ. Come on, we're not called to covet life, we're called to covet Him. Are you guys with me on this? Look, I've pastored long enough to know what happens to us. A spouse dies early and people can't recover. In the next 10 years, they're asking why. And they've lost their productivity, they've lost their impact, their legacy, and all of a sudden they become a product of a deceased spouse and a quandering of who God is, where He is, and I thought you loved me. And all of a sudden they're shipwrecked because of a lack of understanding and emotional state. Are you guys with me? When I started teaching a home group at home, I was 9 months old in the Lord. I had a pretty interesting ride. I just surrendered. The night I got saved, there was a lot of sovereignty and grace on it. God came to work and showed me the inside of my heart, and it was not a pretty picture. It was ugly. And I saw my heart, and I didn't want to ever live another day with that heart. I didn't want to put that heart on you. I didn't want to live another day with that person and know it was me. It horrified me when I really got out of denial and looked into the motives of my heart and saw how selfish, full of hypocrisy and pride I was. I didn't even like myself, and yet I'm living in pride. It was ridiculous what I saw in my heart, and I bawled. I cried. I said, I don't even know if you're real, but I'm pitiful my life. I'm bawling. So when I got saved, I totally gave everything that I saw I was to Him so that everything He was, He could fill and put in all of me. Does that make sense? So in 3 months, without anybody telling me it was possible, without anybody telling me I couldn't, I saw God create something in a body that wasn't there. In 4 months, I had a hernia go closed under my hand and seal and cancel a surgery through a word of knowledge that I didn't even know where it was in the Bible and couldn't even taught on it. Yeah? By 9 months in the Lord, I had moved in and experienced every of the 9 gifts listed in the Bible. I was preaching in churches at 9 months old in the Lord. And they were calling me Reverend. And I wore nice suits because I thought you should. Because I was taught you look your best. I'll tell you how you look your best. You walk in love. You wear suits if you want to. I'm not against it. I just don't feel comfortable, so this is me. So this is how you get me now. But I used to clean up nice and look pretty good. My wife would call me her Ken doll. I'm just saying. I got a little swag about strolling in it. She'd say, whoa. Say, hey, girl. 9 months old in the Lord, I'm preaching in churches. 6 months old in the Lord, teaching a class in our church about transformation. Why? Because everybody saw I was. So they didn't care that I was 6 months old in the Lord. They weren't worried about putting me in a youthful spot in my youthfulness and getting caught in pride, because they saw that I was in love. And I just cried because my life was changing. I knew I didn't do anything but believe. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a super Christian. It wasn't about pride. It was about, man, you love me. So it was just okay. But I was in my home group one night, and people would flood in my house, man. They were sitting all around, up the stairs, in the side room. I'm like, my house is packed. We had like 200 folks in a 2-year period. Different folks visit our house and stay for seasons in a 2-year period. Over 200 folks in my living room. It was fun. It was so intense. My wife and I would walk through the house on Thursday. Meeting was Saturday. Like Thursday, we walk through the room and just pray and thank God for having our home open and the blessing of people coming in the door. And we'd look at the furniture and the places where we were going to set up chairs. And the Lord would give us words of knowledge for the chair that somebody was going to sit in. It was so exciting because we would like wait to see who's going to sit in the chair. And we'd go. We were like little kids, like, this is so fun. It was God loving people through us. All we had was love for people. And we would be like, this meeting would start and I'd say, man, we're just so excited. Kim and I were praying. You know how sometimes he gets in there like, yeah, did we pick the right chair? And I'm like, well, you did. Really? Yeah, God showed us that the person sitting in the chair, this, will be free, be healed. So we're 9 months old in the Lord, and I'm down on my knees crawling through the living room because I would preach that way a lot. I know you can't see me being that passionate, but I would be like, guys, because it was crowded. So I'd just get down on my knees and I'll preach, and I'm looking up the steps and back over my shoulder, and I'm doing that day. I tore buttons off my shirt. I was so passionate. I said, it just came on me. It was the Lord. I said, you see that girl sitting there? And it was my wife. I pointed to her. She's looking. I said, I love her so much. I said, that's my girl. I said, you take her from me. You take those 2 precious kids out of my life. You burn down this house, and you strip the shirt now off my back. You can't touch me now. And people were like, I don't think we came for this sermon, brother. We came for you to tell us how God's going to keep everything and protect everything and make sure every little ducky's in a row and quacking in rhythm. Because that's the gospel to me. I'm like, no. No. Come on. You get thrown in that kind of stuff, you find out what you really believe, and the integrity of the cross is revealed. You endure hardship as a good soldier. You don't entangle yourself in the affairs of this life. You don't say, God, why are you letting all this happen to me? I thought you loved me. Why did he send his son when you didn't deserve it? I bet he does. Maybe we ask the wrong questions. Maybe our questions are self-serving. Maybe they come from quandary. Are you guys all right? I preached that to them people. You should have seen them looking at me, man. They were like, I don't get that, brother. And what I was telling them is, I finally know who I am and why, and I'm going to love less. Not that I don't love. I'm going to love less everything dear to my life so that I can steward it rightly through the one that's most dear. I don't have children so God can protect them. I have children so I can manifest him to them. Yes, I pray that God protects them. Yes, I want God to protect them. But the number one reason I have children is to manifest his image to them. Not draw from them, covet them, and let them be my world. Hello? That's rarely heard in the church because we're so sentimental and our children are our lives. That's why a lot of parents are disappointed because they're trying to live their children's lives for them, paint their dreams for them, and their children are set up to fail them. And now they're older and they're mad and hurt by their kids because they had all these expectations, but yet you say you love them. Maybe you need them and you're using them for identity and they're failing you. Ew. Maybe we ought to get a grip and talk about some of this stuff. Have a few family meetings and chat a little. Come on, I've seen too many crushed parents because of kids. I've seen too many crushed kids because of parents. And we all sing Jesus is Lord. You don't have to believe me. My wife doesn't have the ability to break my heart, nor my kids. I love them. And if they're living way out of conduct, they probably need Jesus all the more. They probably don't need a mad dad. They They probably don't need a disappointed dad. We've had that enough in our lives, guys. We've gotten what we deserve enough. Just cut them off. Just don't talk to them for a while. Make sure we express how angry we are, hoping it sets them straight. Come on, you're just fueling a fire. You're just repaying evil for evil. You're not overcoming evil with good. God didn't treat us that way. Why do we treat each other that way? We sure didn't learn it from Jesus. Psychology will disagree with what I'm saying, and so would a lot of Christians and pastors. But I'm telling you, you don't have to be brokenhearted, and you don't have to minister from a place of pain. Do you know ministers spend their whole life in ministry? Certain ministers will spend their whole life in ministry at a pulpit telling the congregation why they're brokenhearted and how this happened and how life is unfair. And I know it's been tough this week. And I know some of you are this and some of you are that. And you just need to come forward right now and receive the restoration of the Lord and just receive strength from God. And all of a sudden you spend your whole life ministering to people saying they're brokenhearted and they're complying and saying, oh, I feel that way, brother. Pray for me. And this is all how you fill the whole altar with that altar call. And I'm saying, why isn't anybody teaching why we don't have to be brokenhearted? And you say, boy, God.